Alright, so this is the third tutorial in our loops project for music appreciation. Now we've gotten 3 tracks dragged in to our workspace, and they work okay together. Like I said, you could always pick some other things if you want, or add more, but for now we're just going to work with the 3. Now in recording, we don't usually leave everything just as it is once we record it. We have to mess with it a little bit. We do some different things to make it sound better. One of those things is adjusting the volume of each individual track, because you never hear a song where every single instrument is the same volume all the way through. That would get tiring to listen to. It would wear out your ears after a while. So we need to actually mix this, and that means getting the instruments that we have to work together, and we can do that in many different ways. One of which, like I mentioned, is the individual track volume. You'll see that over here on the left in the track pane. Okay, you'll notice there's individual sliders for each track, and each of those sliders controls just that track. Now, in order to really work on a track, you need to enable it, and that means that you're highlighting it. Notice how this came up much brighter green, right? So I'm going to turn the drum track, the beats track, down a little bit. I'm going to turn the bass down a little, and I'm going to bring the guitar up. Okay? So let's listen to how that sounds. And you notice you can barely hear the drums at all. There's barely any beat. So let's bring that back up. Okay, so now we can hear it again. Bass is still a little low. Maybe we want to bring that up, but at the same time maybe bring some of the guitar down so that we're not just turning everything up all the time. I'm going to take the guitar down just a little bit more. Alright, so what's the right solution? That's absolutely up to you. You decide what your ears will tell you is correct or not when mixing these together. Do you want to hear more? Do you want to hear less? That's entirely up to you. Something that you need to think about when you're moving through all the projects that we'll do. Now the other options that we have are panning. You'll notice these buttons here in the track pane again, left and right. Now that means I can force this music to go to the left speaker or to the right speaker. That's stereo. In mixing, you very rarely hear everything dead center all the way through. Panning adds depth to your music. So if I drag that knob to the left and drag the bass knob to the right, alright, I'm going to leave the guitar in the middle, you may notice that it sounds a little bit deeper. It has a little bit more depth to it. It's more three-dimensional than it is just two-dimensional. Okay? So you need to use panning to create depth within your projects. Alright? Now, there's a way to do this with automation. You'll notice in the track pane we have this little arrow here, okay? If I click on that, it opens up another pane underneath the track that I'm working on. Now, the first thing that pops up is track volume. Alright, now I can automate this. That means that I am going to manipulate the sound to do something automatically. I can click. You may notice that there is a very thin line here halfway up this extra track pane that opened. If I click on it, I put a dot on it. Okay? If I click again, I can drag this line up and down. Now, dragging it up makes it louder. Dragging it down makes it quieter. Alright? So I can bring this track in and out as I want. Now, by doing this, you're basically disabling your track volume button over here, because you're going to see as this plays, your track volume button is going to move back and forth by itself without you doing anything. Watch. Okay, so this is a good tool to use for bringing, using fade-ins, fade-outs, things like that. All right. Now, also, I'm going to move to the electric bass track now. I'm going to click on that button again. You'll notice where it says track volume, there's two buttons here, right? And there's a track pan as well. That means that you can automate the panning on your track. And again, there's a very thin blue line here. Now you're going to see it at the bottom because I've already moved the track all the way to the right. So the further down I go, the further to the right I go. The further up I go, the further to the left. All right, so I'm going to drag this up here like this. And I'm just kind of randomly pulling things back and forth. Okay, so now listen to the bass. Notice, and it's really great if you can wear headphones when you do this, you'll really notice it, that things going to seem to move back and forth between your two ears with the bass track. Okay, so that's two ways to automate. You can automate the volume of your track. You can automate the panning of your track. And this is all part of the mixing process. Okay, this is not something that you do when you're initially recording. You save this for afterwards. After all the instruments are completed, you know what instruments and what notes you're playing and all that's done. Then you start mixing using these devices. So I'm going to stop there for this tutorial because that's a lot to deal with right now. And the next tutorial, we're going to deal with a little bit more of effects, how to change the sounds of things, and how we're going to save things. All right? So, see you soon.